Hi everyone. So let's talk stories. So the book I'll be talking about today is The Year of the Locust. It's a thriller by Terry Hayes. So it's a second book, one of the most anticipated book of this year. I personally have been waiting for 5 years for to read this book. So it came out a month ago, and I've done reading it, and I think I'm ready to share my opinion with the world. So to my first opinion after reading this is I enjoyed the first book more, The I Am Pilgrim. The first book by Terry Hayes, I Am Pilgrim. It's a fantastic thriller. So I had sky high expectations on this book as well. So so I was looking forward to a globe-trotting thriller, a chase of a bad guy by good people. So this was my expectation when I started reading this, right? So let's start uh, analyzing the book. So as always, I'll talk about the book in three segments: story, prose, character. While the later two past, the prose and character doesn't matter so much in a book of this genre. So. So I'll concentrate mainly on the story and what I liked and what I found irritating. So to start with, the book is divided into four different parts. The book centers on a protagonist. Let's call him the spy because he goes by various names over the course of the book. So let's call him the spy. He is a denied access agent. That's what he calls himself, of CIA in America. Okay, the book starts with some like back and forth shift in the narrative, but I'll start to explain the gist of the story in a chronological order. So what happens is, let's say there is a fugitive from CIA. No, it's not exactly a fugitive, but a former member of CIA is betrays the agency and is responsible for killing of 10 people in the Gulf. Okay, and he escapes from the CIA. So that's one part of the story that gets introduced in the very beginning of the book. Now, the next part is where the first part begins, where CIA agents in Afghanistan are given an information that something very big is going to is going to happen in America. And that's what they call a spectacular. A spectacular event is going to happen, is going to invade America, and this was the information that's passed down to a CIA agent who works as a mechanic in the Afghan area. Now, as expected, this information will be passed down to the top the heads of the CIA agency, and he's called Falcon. He plays a very crucial role in the story, and he'll be there throughout the book. So when this information is passed down to Falcon, the head of the CIA, he sends his best, the spy, to Afghanistan for the sole reason of extracting this the person who you know the who shared this information in the first place. The person who shared this information is a courier to this to the secret terrorist group who is planning this you know planning this spectacular, and that the courier's demands are to extract his family and him safely out of Afghanistan into America with some large sum of like it's around $20 million. Now, CIA, after getting some confirmation, agrees to this deal and sends the spy to extract him out of Afghanistan. Now, this is where the story gets a little bit tedious. That uh, after the spy lands in Afghanistan, there is a painfully long description on how he travels to the mountains and hills or forests of Afghanistan to meet this courier. It's extremely long, and we as a reader, we our focus tends to deviate from the narrative. So that's my first problem with the book. After this hurdle of this, after the hurdle by the spy and by us, the spy actually reaches to the designated point and finds out that the courier is crucified, literally. So he's crucified to a wooden stake, and his family and children were, chained at the foot of the, that at his foot. Now he's obviously died. He's obviously dead, and his wife and children are left to die just by just to make the matters worse. The wife and children are just given water to, to extend their suffering. Now the spy notices this. He understands that his mission here is done, and he realizes that okay, there's no way of him extracting the information anymore. And as per the orders from his management, or from his chiefs, so the next step is to go out of that place without raising any more alarms. But the protagonist, being the protagonist, he rescues the poor woman and his children out from the agony. And there is the old grandfather that's by their side. They just takes off, to a safe place away from the goons that were protecting, because the goons were killed by the spy. Now the spy, as expected, escapes from the place, and will be met by some like friendly group of people who were present at the time of the courier's crucifixion. Now those people greets him, and thanks him for rescuing the poor women and children. And they pass down a very critical information, which says that the courier, before dying, he was talking about something. He says, he referenced the Bhopal tragedy that was happened in India in 1984. So not in exact same words, he uses some code language. Okay, that's so this piece of information will pass down to the spy. Now after no because he got at least some information, the spy starts his rescue mission. So after doing some gimmicks, he initiates a rescue mission. And his agency sends some people to extract him. Now this is where things gets pretty interesting. Now he doesn't escape. He'll not escape. He, along with the women who came along to take him out, will be captured by some a terrorist group. Now one of the people who's present, in the group that captured the spy and the woman, is an wanted terrorist who was assumed dead by the United States. Now this is where the narrative takes a pretty interesting turn, where the spy and the woman who was captured are will be are escaped in a fantastic stretch of an action piece that takes place in a beach. Before escaping, they realize that okay, it's not just some this terrorist group is not just some another random group of people who have vengeance pointed to a different group of people. It's not that way. They seem to be pretty solid group of people who are planning something very big. Okay, now this that ends the first part, where the escaping of the spy and the woman from the clutches of this terrorist group. And the main antagonist, the main person who was assumed dead, he has a very long name. I think he's a Russian turned ISIS founder turned a terrorist guy. I think he goes by Kaczynski. His Russian name is Kaczynski. That ends the first part and the introduction to all the pieces of the puzzle. Now the second and third part are where it gets tedious. The second part is entirely about how the second part is totally about how did the United States government identifies the location of this terrorist group. And by their archives, by the satellite technology, by the spies by the spy identifying some people from his journey, because from the time of his capture, all this information leads up to the United States identifying the location of this terrorist group and then bombing the terrorist group. Now that's where the second part ends, where they assume that where no where they initially assume that the Kaczynski will be dead, but by the end of the second part we get to know that Kaczynski, being Kaczynski, he escapes uh, from the blast, and he starts going up north into the Russia. That's the second part. The third part is very tedious. Like it's so long that it's all about how did the United States manages their uses their state of the art, extremely futuristic camouflaging a submarine which can camouflage through the water. It basically disappears through the water. They are how they want to test this underground, how the invisible submarine to uh, attack the that suspicious place that Kaczynski went to Russia, where he starts working. Okay, this is where all this, so like there are multiple pieces of puzzle where we don't know how the writer will tie up all this ends, right? After the third part ends, fourth part takes, it's a mind bending turn. It's like complete 360-degree turn, complete 180 degrees turn, which says that okay, in my mind we think that this is going to be globe-trotting thriller by a spy to catch a bad guy, right? But for the fourth part, I don't think I can even reveal that it's a genre shift which happens by the beginning of the fourth part, and I was like, what happened? Like it has something to do with the time travel. It has something to do with it gave me the Lost of Us vibes. So it has something to do with the apocalypse. It has something to do with the ending was the ending was too sudden to say that okay, he'll go in and he'll finish the job and he'll come back and everything is good. That didn't fit for me. And the editing of the book should have been more more precise, more cruel. The editing should have been more cruel in the sense that it's a 900-page long book and it should have been like 450 odd page. So it has material enough for a feature film, not more than that. So it's a the editing was a major drawback, because so many of the people who have started this book without reading I Am Pilgrim, who will definitely will definitely leave it in first, probably in like next 200 to 300 pages, because it's exhilarating. It's hard to go through all this without having respect for the writer, because I have respect for Terry Hayes. I know I sustained for all this 900 pages, and for like the ending was pretty good, I would say, but the genre shift and the not the the length of the book, it totally let down. It did totally let down the book, and it's so. I Am Pilgrim. It's not like that. There's so many there are so many action set pieces. There are so much drama that starts weaving through these action set pieces. You don't see the length of the book weighing on you, unlike here where the action set pieces and the drama are very meager, and you start to feel bored reading through the elaborate descriptions of the submarines, elaborate descriptions of his travel through the mountains, and how did the Russian factory look like, and it's all too descriptive. It's all sometimes it feels like okay, um, Terry Hayes did his investigation, he did his research, and he didn't want any material of his to go to waste. So that's why he dumped all of it into the book, and the book came out a 900-page mammoth, which is very hard to read. The By hard to read, I mean the prose is really good, but the narrative is what takes the shot, no, because of not having right priorities. If the priorities was to deliver a page turning narrative, it would have been like 400 odd page book with a very crisp storyline and very hook. It would have been a perfect page turner, because there is enough material for to sustain the reader for 500 to 400 pages. It don't have any, it doesn't have material more than that. That being said, it's a decent book. It's, if you are into, if you are someone who reads thrillers, who likes to read sort of a like genre shifting novel, like you you would expect, you would expect the narrative to go into one direction, go in one direction, but over the course of the, suddenly the course of the book takes a u-turn, and takes the narrative just starts going up all around the place. So, but it definitely does surprise you, where the futuristic element of the book is pretty solid. It's pretty good, I would say. And I don't have anything to talk about prose or either the characters, because the characters in these kind of novels are just driving forces for a story, and story is what takes place the pedestal of the narrative. I think that's about it for the year of the locust. And cheers. Catch up. I'll catch you in the next one.